Good evening, race fans. Welcome back once again to Simple Racing Broadcasts. It is, of course, Tuesday night, which means it's time for the Alliance Sim Racing Gard Supercar Championship. And tonight it's one that I have been really excited about since it was announced for this season. It is round 3, and it is, of course, the all-new St Petersburg Grand Prix Street Circuit in Florida, United States of America. It's great to be here, and these street circuits, they always are a bit of fun with these V8 supercars. Tonight we're going to see just how much carnage. We've been predicting it for weeks, of course, but tonight we're going to see just how much we actually get around this very, very tight and twisty little circuit. My name's Jared Cole. With me in the booth tonight, as always, Isaac Fogarty. And Isaac, mate, I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, good evening, Jared. Good evening, everyone. Really excited about tonight. An unsighted track, something we haven't seen really anything of in terms of league racing. This circuit is brand new, and everyone's going to be put to the test tonight. An even playing field for our drivers. Who's had the time to put in the practice, gain the most experience, that's who'll be rewarded this evening, no doubt. But looking forward to seeing what supercars are like around here. Obviously, it's a street circuit, and street circuits plus supercars are always good together. So how that goes, I'm sure, whatever happens, it's going to be absolutely fireworks. Safety cars, I think, would be a highly likelihood of seeing those as well, Jared.
I still maintain, and I said this, I'm pretty sure last week and the week before, I maintain that this is going to be the first time we see a full track blockage. We've not had one yet in, well, seven and a couple of rounds of seasons. It's not happened yet, but if anywhere, I reckon St Petersburg is going to be it. We'll take a quick hot lap in just a moment with Simon Haynes in the Gard Mustang. He's very kindly putting together our track preview videos for us for each of these rounds. But before we do that, let's take a quick look at tonight's format and, of course, the standings after 2 rounds of this championship. Tonight, of course, 2 races, 18-lap sprint to start us off, and then a 44-lap main race with 2 compulsory pit stops. Interestingly enough, no reverse grids tonight, so it does mean that first race is going to be really, really important for track position, especially when it comes to surviving what, as we expect, will probably be a pretty fierce battle through the concrete canyons here. So we will wait and see just how that does play out over the course of this evening. Qualifying going on right now, as always, in the background, and I can tell you from the practice times, it's looking like a very, very competitive field tonight, Isaac, with a couple of new names that aren't actually on the championship standings yet as well.
Yeah, it's looking pretty quick out there. It's a very, very quick lap, but some new names out there. What can they do this evening to upset what's been happening so far in this championship? Connor Nixon leading the points to 521 points, so 20 points clear of Brian Borg. Obviously, it's only early in the season, so these points will change as we get further into the season, no doubt. Luke Orman sits in 3rd, Damon Fisher P4. Then it's James Hardy, the League Trophy Cup class driver, in 5th position, so right up there. It's great to see those trophy guys up there this season, isn't it? Stephen Varga, P6. Andrew Hoffman, the 2nd in the Trophy Cup class, is P7. Paul Burns, 8. Mark Poynton, and then Brett Horsell rounding out that top 10. You've got Chad Vigar, Andrew Listener also sitting there fairly close behind, so competitive at the moment for the pretty much up and down the field, really, but that's, that back into the top 10 is very close on points. Paul Burns and Mark Poynton actually tied 4 points as well. Abel Verban, Ernie Toth, Brad Hayes, Ray Smith as well, who didn't get any points in the second race last week. He was disqualified for towing back to pits without permission. So that was unfortunately means that he was not included in the results and lost out on points last week. Scott Perrins, Troy Stone Street, who missed last week, happy to confirm he's back this week. What can he do on the streets of St Petersburg? Jack Wittes, we saw come out swinging last round, make an absolute statement by winning both races and absolutely crushing the first race. A bit of a battle between himself and his teammate Brian Borg in race 2, but it was still pretty close. And then Craig Rose in 20th position in those points. And looking a little further afield, I believe we do have a few more drivers further down in those points. There we are. Phil Manuel just sits outside that top 20. Matt Vanderkraan as well, who has only done 1 round. We saw him last week. He sits in 22nd. Ash Hall, Brad Grant, Daniel Yeaman, Dave Dell. Jason Benz is back this week as well. Hopefully he can put in a solid performance as he always does, move further up the order in those points. Shane Patterson, Rick Vigar, Jason Dunn, Sips, Jamie McKnight, Mick Rudd, and David Coleman right down the back of the field. David Coleman also back on the grid this evening. So a couple of new faces tonight, Jared, but also a couple of returning names as well.
Absolutely, and we'll take a look at how they go out on track in not too long at all. About 4 minutes left in the qualifying session going on, which gives us just enough time to have a bit of a run around this track. For those who haven't seen it just yet, let's go for a bit of a ride, shall we, with Simon Haynes as he gets behind the wheel of the Gard Mustang for a hot lap here at St Petersburg, and we start off at the back end of this long airport runway straight all the way up to absolute top speed here before what is a really, really challenging first turn. You've really got to get on the brakes very early and get your turn in right for turn 1 and 2, or you will get yourself well off track and lose a lot of time as we start to get immediately into the very, very tight streets here at St Petersburg. 3-3 and another straight down before the hard break into fourth. This starts the complex of back and forth 90-degree turns, which are going to really challenge drivers here tonight. A little bit of reprieve through 6 and 7 as we straighten it up, and then hard on the brakes again. Get the nose tipped in. A nice tight right-hander and followed immediately by another one. You've got to watch the exit here, though. There's a little dip in the road that just might catch some drivers out if they're too hard on the throttle too early. Maintain that pace through the fast left-hander, get right up against the walls on both sides of the track. Then again, hard on the brakes and into the left-hander that starts the second to last straight, really. A little bit of chicane here, and what you've probably heard through this whole run, it's a really, really tough circuit to balance these cars on particularly. It's one that demands not just full acceleration the whole time. You really do find yourself balancing on the throttle to keep the car composed through a lot of this circuit. It is a very, very tricky one indeed. Simon Haynes doing a great job, and as always, a massive thank you to Gard for their support for this season once again. As he pulls off into the distance, we find ourselves getting closer and closer to the start of tonight's racing. It's a really interesting circuit, isn't it, Isaac? It's tight, and there's not a lot of room to run off the racing line. I'm not quite sure where we're going to see the bulk of tonight's passing moves. So you've got to think there's something off the back end of the main straight, but outside of that, there's just not a lot of room to work with out there. These guys are going to have to be pushing really hard door to door.
They absolutely are. It's going to be a difficult spot to try and get any sort of overtaking done. Looking at that sort of up the top of the track map on your screen at the moment, that will be a little bit of a spot. If you can get a nice run through essentially what is a little bit of a staircase section, the 90-degree right and left-handers, maybe an over-under. If you get on the outside, you can switch back underneath to get a run onto that third last straight, or the second sort of long straight we have with that, as you said, the really quick left-hander. You could get yourself a move there, but as you said, you've got to be careful on exit. There's a dip in the road there. Can catch the drivers out, and I think it will catch a few drivers out this evening, no doubt. Also, very heavy braking zones. It's such a high-speed circuit. You're only doing about a minute 13 to get around a lap here, so it's not a long lap at all, which means it's for these guys. There's so much high speed, so much they have to think about, and when you're battling another car, that can create a whole separate risk factor. So you're trying to watch where the walls are, watch your throttle, watch your braking. You don't want to lock up because you'll end up in a wall. And the whole time you're also trying to look around you. Is a car going for a move? Where are they sitting behind me? The car in front of me, what are they doing? So there's so much to think about. You're so busy on a street circuit, and that's why I talk to any driver, they'll say that some of the most exhausting races they've done have been on street circuits. 18 laps around here, it'll be a good teaser, but the 44 laps is really going to test our drivers, and I think we'll be hard-pressed not to see a safety car this evening.
Yeah, and I reckon those compulsory pit stops are going to be absolutely crucial. I'm expecting we'll see maybe a little similar to what we did see from the first two rounds, that there'll be some drivers who go for a really, really heavy undercut who'll look like they're out of contention until the dying laps of the race, and then all of a sudden it's all going to fall into their lap. Well, that's my prediction for tonight. But yeah, with a couple of safety cars looking pretty likely, let's be honest, around this circuit, anything could happen, and often does. We are mere seconds away from getting our confirmation of our grid here tonight. A massive hello to all of the regulars out there in chat. You know who you are. Good to have you back with us. As always, Maddie and Wade. Phil Manuel supporting it from the chat as well. He is not returning to race any of the further rounds in this season, unfortunately. So, look, great for our pronunciation, if nothing else, Isaac. But unfortunately, we won't be seeing him back in it this season. So he will slowly drop further down the order as the season goes on. Here we go. The official results are in from qualifying. This is how it looks. Bradley Ratu, his first appearance here tonight for the Logitech G ODBM team, takes the pole alongside Brian Borg. Then Connor Nixon and Matt Vanderkraan on row 2, with Jason Bentz and Luke Allman behind them. Some support for 266 Sim Racing in the chat as always. Frogleaf Juice Racing in the top 10 again. Mark Poynton has had such a strong start to his season as he lines up alongside David Adele, who finds himself as the only Cup Trophy driver in the top 10. David Coleman and Troy Stonestreet round out your first 5 rows. As we look a little bit further back, Ray Smith and Damon Fisher on row 6, and Abel Burban and Stephen Varga behind them. Andrew Hoffman and Ernie Toth ahead of Rick Varga and Brad Hayes, with Ash Hall and James Hardy rounding out your top 20. Behind that, Brett Hossel and Paul Burns are on row 11. Then Scott Perrins and Trav Daly, with Troy Sipple and Andrew Listner in row 13, if I'm keeping count correctly. Craig Rose, the last driver to set a time. Jason Dunn, just a little bit off the pace, couldn't quite get that qualifying lap in, but hopefully we'll see him out on track and racing tonight. Simon Haynes and Todd Martin behind the wheel of the safety car this evening, and I suspect we'll get to see a little bit of them tonight. That's my prediction still, Isaac, and I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't see why we wouldn't have a safety car here tonight. It's a difficult circuit. It's a brand new circuit for a lot of these drivers. It's the first time they'll be doing any sort of real competitive racing on it for quite a number of them. Some of them may have definitely had the opportunity through other leagues, but this track's only been out for just over a month, I believe. Not a long time at all. So they're trying to get used to it, trying to adjust, and this will be a trial by fire for quite a number of them. Notice Mick Rudd's jumped in as well. He's going to start at the back of this field as well. Jason Dunn not yet to jump in, but that could be just biding his time before the start of this race. The grid's pretty formed now. We've got a number of cars on the grid. We're waiting on a couple, but this will be a standing start at St Petersburg. Not something you see too much of. Usually this is somewhere where IndyCar will start. Well, this is where IndyCar kicks off their regular season, and they don't do a standing start. So this is something a little bit unsighted for St Petersburg if you are an IndyCar fan, because Supercars, we don't do rolling starts. We go from the standstill.
Yeah, and look, it's always going to present a bit of a challenge, isn't it? The standing start here into turn 1, I don't know if that's going to make life easier or harder, but we are really close to finding out. About 5 seconds left before we hand over to the starter. A long lineup of cars down this front straight here at St Petersburg as the sun beats down from a nice warming, clear kind of sky this morning. Depends on whether you're talking real time or in sim time, but in either case, it's looking like a brilliant day to go racing. We've got all the drivers on the grid. We're handing over to the starter. The lights come up, as do the revs. These guys load them up on the trans brake as we wait for the last of the lights to go out, and we are away and racing. There we go for race number 1 here at St Petersburg for the very first time, not just for ASR, but I believe pretty well for iRacing generally. This is a new track, so not many people have. They've got a big crash in the background. Huge incident. We've got cars absolutely everywhere, and already we're seeing issues, and we didn't even make it into turn 1, and we will likely have a safety car. We're just waiting on confirmation. I can see Simon Haynes is buckling the belts as we speak, and a big incident as Brad Ratu leads Brian Borg away, and we start to get in through this staircase section. Have a look at just how tight this whole track actually is. It's a very, very tough circuit for these drivers to negotiate, but we're going to see some drivers already starting to just nudge around and look for opportunities early on. And what an opening little salvo that is. We're going to have to go back and take a look at it in just a moment, but as it stands for the moment, Radu gets away. Brian Borg leading Connor Nixon, with Matt Vanderkraan behind. Luke Allman and Dave Adele, the 266 sim racers, both right up in there. Mark Poynton, right where he started. Jason Bentz really bogged it down off the line, and not the start that he was hoping for. It looks like we might actually get away without a safety car, which is awesome news from a race perspective. Really surprising to see, though, because it did look like a pretty sizable issue in the background.
Yeah, the biggest, or the worst off for that incident was Damon Fisher. He's dropped 17 places all the way back to the last. will stay out on track though. Brad Hayes also carrying damage, comes into the pit lane. James Hardy as well was caught up in that, lost
Vargs.
7 spots. Oh, Vargs around trying to look, they've got to find any sort of part of the road they can here to get a move done. Up the inside now from Verban on Hoffman. And that was a lovely move. And again, that little left-right 90-degree section, similar to a typical Australian street circuit like Adelaide, you've got those 90-degree corners. It's a good opportunity to try and set yourself up, set the car up, look for a way to get past, especially if you get a better drive off the corner. So that was a lovely overtake there. But yeah, multiple cars involved in that opening. And the biggest loser of that are definitely Brad Hayes and Damon Fisher. Damon Fisher seems to be pushing on even if he does have damage. And Brad Hayes did come in to get his damage repaired. So a bit of a frustrating beginning to the first race of the evening for those two, but still a fair way to go. And 44 laps in the second race, so a long way to go for those two as well. But a great start, I should point out, for Jason Dunn, up 7 spots. Andrew Listener up 6. So the two biggest movers in this field at the moment in the mid-pack, and they are pushing on with it.
Have a look at Jason Dunn just showing the nose to Troy Sipple there on the way down to turn 1. It really does look like a tough spot to try and get done. Almost opens the door there. Phipps on the inside of 2, but there's you've got to really be right on top of it to be able to have a shot at it. And it looks as though he's got it in hand for the moment. Just ahead of them though. Tell you what, Trav Daly starting to throw that car around a little bit, find himself very, very wide. He's gotten a little bit of out of rhythm there and loses 1 spot. Did he lose another? Almost. Andrew Listener gives him a little bit of a nudge along with a hurry up because he wanted to come through there. And look at the concertina behind as a result. You've got all of these quad racing cars that have all found each other again this week. Craig Rose, Ash Hall, Scotty Perrin's in there as well. You've got James Hardy just off the back of this group as well. So a whole lot of quantum racing drivers all right there in amongst it. Further up though, David Adele just holding off Mark Point and Jason Bentz as they come back onto the main straight. Let's go back and take a look at the carnage off the start here, and we'll keep an eye on Brad Hayes because he did seem to cop it the most. The Chubby Buns replay. What can we see here? Look, just gets caught up in the middle and into the wall. It actually didn't look too bad. It looks as though Ash Hall might have actually had the worst of it there, getting spun around, I think. And whether there's anything in that, we'll try another look at this. I think it's actually James Hardy that comes across.
It is James Hardy. Yep.
So yeah, he finds himself facing completely the wrong way, and then almost in it's Damon Fisher. We'll take a look at Damon Fisher's particular perspective because I don't think he actually got caught up in that, but just on the way through, Paul Burns on the inside gets caught between a couple of cars. Cold tyres, another nudge from Verban there, and up and over the ripple strip he goes. So a few incidents all happening at once. The Chubby Buns replay, as always, giving us all of the insight on that. Look, just one of those starts, isn't it? Cold tyres, everyone starting to jam into what is a pretty tough turn 1, and it's just come undone, unfortunately, for a few of them.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? And as I said, this is a fairly brand new track. Obviously, we haven't had a lot of time around here. I think this is ASR, one of the first leagues to actually run a competitive supercars race around here. And so for a lot of these drivers, as we mentioned, it is the first time that they're approaching that situation. So, you know, you go side by side with plenty of cars, plenty of drivers throughout your time in league racing, but every time there's a new track, it just provides that little bit of uncertainty, that element of the unknown, and a couple of drivers coming unstuck. Whether we see something similar for race 2 or whether they learn from that to avoid having incidents similar to that later on, we will find out. This is Rick Weigart. Looked like a move on Andrew Hoffman, but maybe just not the drive off the corner he wanted. Was moved further across to the inside, so that was an interesting car positioning there for the Angry Birds Racing driver, but we'll continue on. He's up 2 spots at the moment into 15th place, driving very well, and he's got the pace on the man in front of him. Looking at their lap times, he is quick. He can stay with Andrew Hoffman, so he could get a couple more spots before this race is over. This is a nice run, isn't it, into the final corner. And typically in a supercar, Jared, you want to get as far out to that wall as you can before you turn into the corner, but it's just not possible with the momentum they carry through that little chicane before the final corner. So you're sort of sitting in the middle of the racetrack. This is Ash Hall off the road. Heavy damage on that car He is dragging the right front. That is absolutely broken. He's just going to cut the corner a little bit. He's got a meatball flag, so there is something very, very wrong with the right-hand corner, front corner of that car.
Yeah, we can pick up. It looks like the damage is already done. I wonder if he's just gone into the wall, perhaps a little earlier. Well, he's definitely hit the wall again there.
That's
but
done it now.
The tricky thing is, you keep moving so fast at this circuit that it actually doesn't get picked up as an incident when you smack into one of these walls at high speed and keep rolling. And this is always the fun of street circuits. We'll see if we can find a better view of that for you shortly, folks. We'll keep an eye on this one for the moment, though. Dave Diddell, Mark Point, and Jason Bentz all still battling it out here for sixth, but Diddell just starting to open up a little bit of a gap here on Point and Bentz. It's not much, but it might be just enough to keep his nose out in front for the next 11 or so laps, as those two get caught up in battling each other. That's what he'll be hoping for. He wants to just have a little bit of clean air behind him to just give him a little bit more in terms of options and some less pressure, honestly, around this sort of circuit, because it is a very demanding circuit. I can tell you from the few laps that I've done around here in a car with much more downforce and much more grip than a Gen 3 supercar, it is asking a lot of the drivers. You've got to be right on the line that you want through these corners, to within just a couple of mil of the wall in just about every case. It's not like some of the other circuits you've got around the place where you go through a section that requires that sort of precision, but then get to open it up a little bit elsewhere. You've really got to be pushing the limits the whole way around this track. The airport runway is the only reprieve you get here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is such a busy track. You are really, and that's what we said earlier, you've got so much to think about at a street circuit, especially a street circuit like this. The last thing you want to add to that equation is another car around you trying to battle you and go for a move. So there's so much pressure on these drivers already. As we get a replay now, this might tell the story of what happened to Ash Hall. And yeah, the tyre barrier. So just clip the tyre barrier, and that will absolutely do it, won't it? Just broke the right front enough, and then that secondary hit into the outside wall just here in the penultimate corner has absolutely finished the job.
Yeah, it didn't take much. He would have absolutely bent some steering components on that tyre wall. And yeah, once you get to that point, you don't really know that you've got that issue until you try and turn the same direction again, which is exactly what happened. He's tried to make that left-hand turn and found that outside front right just didn't have anything to give, and off into the wall he goes. Unfortunate for Ash Hall, and even more so unfortunate tonight, perhaps, with the lack of any sort of reverse grid. But look, I think from as far down as he's going to find himself here tonight, I don't know there would be much recovery for him anyway. So it's going to be a tough second race, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tough second race, and as I said, there's no reverse grid, but from that far down in the order, I don't know if it would have made that much of a difference. So a bit of work to do, but the good thing about having a second race is that the times and the gaps are reset, so he'll have an opportunity to essentially gain back those 52 seconds he's currently behind Brad Hayes, and hopefully continue to make some spots up. This is Brett Horsell. We're on board in P17. He's got Ernie Toth just in front of him. This is for third place in class. This could be an interesting battle between these two. He's trying to find a way. Look how wide they get on the outside, close to the wall, before they head into the first corner. And a little bit wide there from, I believe that was Ernie Toth, that got a little bit wider on the Exeter one, running down towards the staircase section now. So this is a really nice circuit. It just flows, doesn't it?
Big lock up from Toth.
Oh, big lock up. I sort of jinxed it, didn't I? But it does seem to flow. You can get into a bit of a rhythm around here. That's what Ernie Toth needs to do now. He won't have a flat spot. There's no flat spot mechanics on this game, so he'd be very thankful for that. But he's just got to try and build himself in now, take his time, and not worry too much about the car behind. But also, don't forget that he's there, because if he goes for a move, the last thing you want is just to be turned down on. Race update: Troy Sipple crashed.
Let's go back and take a look. The Chubby Buns replay. Is this going to be a repeat? It looks like it might be a repeat of Ash Hall. Gets on the brakes, can't quite get turned in. Oh, hits that wall very hard, and then gets another tap into it from behind. I'm not quite sure. I think that might have been Jason Dunn coming past, or potentially even a lapped car, but that's done huge damage to the front of Sip's car. Yeah. Look, if it wasn't done the first time, that second hit absolutely finished him off. So Sips has gone through to the pits. It does look like Jason Dunn's had a crash not too long after that, and I wonder if it's the damage he sustained from that contact with Sips there. We'll have a look on the Chubby Buns replay. Maybe it's actually a bit further on, so I wonder if he's just overcooked it. And sure enough, it doesn't quite get it turned in. Look at the move there though from James Hardy on the way through. Manages to just sneak up the inside and pick up a spot as well.
Yeah, it's smart driving from James Hardy. Great avoiding action, and because the circuit, it's creating a few errors in drivers we don't normally see errors like that from. So it's getting interesting out there. It's going to be a very fatiguing second race. We're already 11 laps into this race. The race leader, Bradley Radu, by the way, is about a second clear of Brian Borg out the front, and it's 4 seconds back to this little battle pack of Connor Nixon, Matt Vanderkram, and Luke Allman. Luke Allman really trying to find his way past Matt Vanderkram if he can. He wants to get on that second row. There's no opportunity here for anyone on the grid to have their result flipped around to move forward. Last week we had a reverse top 5. And Luke Allman would have been in prime position to sit on pole, but he doesn't have that this week. No hat this week for Luke Allman.
That's the problem. No hat.
He's got no hat on. Usually we see him in the rig. He's wearing a hat, and he looks as locked in as ever. But I'm a bit disappointed there's no hat this week, and maybe that's the issue. Maybe he would have already been past Matt Vanderkran if he had the hat on.
I think that makes perfect sense myself, but who am I to give race advice to any of these guys? They're running times that are a good 10 seconds quicker than I reckon I do around here in a GT3, so I might just leave them to it, I suspect.
Yeah, they seem to know what they're doing, so we'll let the experts handle that one, and we'll just go back to talking about race cars, shall we? But look, only now 7 laps to go. Time absolutely flies, and they're running out of time now if they want to get past. This is Ray Smith all over the back of Stone Street. So Stone Street, who had a very, very strong result all the way back in round 1, wasn't present last week at Road America, so lost out in terms of the championship. Ray Smith on a charge back after being disqualified from the second race last week for not requesting a tow back to pits. He just towed back to pits. That was, unfortunately, according to the rules, you need to request a tow rather than just jumping back to the pit lane, and he broke that rule, so as a result was disqualified by the stewards. Both these guys with a point to prove. They want to be in the equation for the championship, and they're sitting in 10th and 11th at the moment, so they need to be moving forward, but they are locked in a bit of a battle right now. They've got, who's that in front of them? David Coleman about 1.5 seconds up the road, and Stephen Varga about 2 seconds back. So they're in a nice little bubble, but that could change very quickly.
It could, and a few changes look like they might be happening here, although Ernie Todd's still doing his best to hold the trio of Horser, Burns and Listener at bay in this battle for 16th. It's still going on. No one's managed to make too much of a move here just yet, but you feel like someone's going to have to throw something in there pretty soon. You can bide your time up to the last couple of laps, but they're starting to run out of time here, run out of options, and it does feel like Toth is almost the cork in the bottle here. It's 5.5 seconds up the road to Rick Vigar. So these four have been battling out for a while, but no one quite able to find a way past Toth just yet.
Yeah, he's drove really well, hasn't he? Very defensive, made that car as wide as he possibly can. Super difficult for anyone at this point to try and find a way past, and you can see there into turn 1, Horsell just checks up a little bit to make sure he doesn't go into the back of Ernie Toth, and as a result, Paul Burns closes at a rapid rate of knots. So this is a nice battle group forming. Luke Allman still all over the back of Matt Vanderkran as well. Mark Poynton, Dave Zadell and Jason Bentz also locked in a battle. So it's all happening at the front end of this field. And as I've said that, we've actually cut to this little battle between Zadell, Poynton and Bentz. So this is for 6th place on the road. Jason Bentz down 3 spots from where he started. Didn't have the strongest start. There's things about to move up the inside very late. That's a big look. And Mark Poynton has afforded him the room. He was on the grass under brakes, was Jason Bentz. Got the car pulled up. A very audacious move. He might pull it off though. They're still side by side down the front straight. Can Jason Bentz get the move done into turn number 1? They're going to remain side by side. They do well not to make contact. It's still going on, folks. All the way from the last corner. Swoops back across in front of him, and I think that is position gained for Jason Benz for now, but it has been an absolute free kick for Dave Tadella, who's walked away into the distance, and it has invited David Coleman to the party.
Yeah, look, it has. I don't know if Coleman's going to get in amongst it in just a few laps, but he's certainly closed that gap right up very, very quickly, hasn't he? He's now within a second, only 8/10 off the back of Poynton. I'd almost tip Poynton to have the same kind of a crack at Bence on this lap. I'd be sending it up the inside and trying to take it back in the same kind of way. Mick Rudd, somewhere in the background, has had an incident and found himself into the wall. We'll take a look at that in just a moment, but I think we'll keep an eye on this for now, because Poynton and Bence, geez, I reckon this is going to get a little bit hairy over these last couple of laps. Poynton, though, just starting to lose a little bit of distance, and he had a big look up the inside there, tried to throw Bence. It's actually cost him a lot of time as he's corrected very, very late there, and David Coleman just chipping away at it, getting closer and closer. Let's take a look at what's happened to Mick Rudd, the Chubby Buns replay. Oh, tell me it's not the tyre wall again. It is. It's going to be the tyre wall again, Isaac, and I'm starting to see a bit of a theme here. Big lock-up. He actually keeps it out of the barrier, though, and luckily for Mick, no one coming through to give him another nudge in, unlike Sips, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's look, that tyre barrier I think is going to be a bit of a common denominator. There's a car going slow on the track.
Right, I think he's just getting out of the way as lap traffic,
possibly.
So that's good. I saw his name come up again. I was a little concerned for him, but I think he's just pulled it over to get out of the way there. Ernie Toth still holding this group at bay. They're starting to move around a little bit more back there, though, aren't they? They're really getting antsy, and they want to try and get even just one extra spot at this point. We'll check in out in front, though, because Bradley Ratu is just dominating at the moment. He is quite comfortable out there. Brian Borg hasn't quite been able to sit with him, and that gap has opened up just a little bit further. It's out to 1.3 now. Connor Nixon, you can see just rounding the corner behind them, is another 3 seconds further back than Matt Vanderkraan and Luke Orman. Really the only ones battling it out for a top 5 position at the moment. And the only one that seems to be in doubt right now is P4. It'll be Vanderkraan and Orman who will go at it for another couple of laps yet. The battles, though, are happening further back tonight.
They certainly are. And that's, look, it's not uncommon for ASR to see the battles happening further down this pack, especially as the race goes on. There's a little bit of speed differential with some of these guys throughout varying stages of the stint, so it sort of ebbs and flows a little bit, and it's great to see that it's still going after 16 laps, sets us up for what is going to be a cracker of a race coming up as well. This one is far from over. I think as well a number of drivers getting caught out by that tyre barrier is partly because of the elevation change. You look here, look at how much these cars are bouncing throughout parts of this section. This track is laser scanned, so they're getting the real profile of the road that they would have if they were about as close as they can possibly physically get to taking a supercar here in real life and running it around. And there's just so much undulation. There's a little dip. Yes, we've pointed it out on the lap we did earlier on board with Simon Haynes. There's so much change in elevation and up and down and bounce that it's so easy for these cars to come unsettled. There's no ABS, no traction control, just the slightest little bit of change when you're trying to brake in these cars can create the biggest of issues, and it's bringing quite a number of drivers unstuck. These guys, though, fairly tidy through there that time. Looking nice and straight. No one's going for a move just yet. They're running out of time, so they're going to have to start to think about sizing one another up sooner rather than later, Jared, but they are looking pretty tidy for now.
They are. It's been a nice, respectful little race here for these 4 drivers. No one doing anything too risky, and everyone wanting to make sure that they all make it to the end. But you can see now Brett Horsell just starting to reel in Toth in a little bit as he looks to the inside. He's actually pulling over and getting out of the way. I wonder what's happened. Something's gone wrong for Horsell there. I don't quite know what's happened, but he's pulled over and he's given up 2 spots to Listener and to Burns as well. So, geez, surely it's not a fuel issue. Has he cut it too fine on the fuel? I wouldn't think so, but we'll keep an eye on where he does finish that up. We are on to the final lap. Brad Ratu out in front has started the final lap as these guys make their way through the back part of this race course. A little further up is a similarly sized pack, although a little bit more spread out. Dave Tadella absolutely driving the pants off that thing tonight. He's in 6th. He's up 2 spots since the start, and hasn't managed to close in on his teammate Luke Orman, but a great result so far for 266 Sim Racing. They're looking at 5th and 6th at this stage, as Diddell picks up a slowdown through that first couple of corners.
Jinxed it.
One of the only places you'll find one, isn't it? Because everywhere else you've got a wall to bounce into before you actually exceed track limits. And he's going to try and burn it off here without losing too much time or distance to Jason Bence. Benso right onto him. Absolutely all over it, and cannot quite get there at the moment. But Diddell's going to be under huge pressure for the rest of this lap. There's a couple of tight battles going on throughout the field. We'll try and keep an eye on all of them if we can. Out in front, though, Brad Radu is on track with only about 2 or 3 turns left to go. He should take this one relatively easily. It'll just be a question of how some of these other battles do turn out. Matt Vanderkruijm, probably the next one for us to keep a close eye on. But at the finish line, Brad Radu comes across. Brian Borg immediately behind. Then Connor Nixon will come across the line in third place as one of the cars loses a bumper across the line. Vanderkruijm holds fourth. Luke Orman will come home in fifth. And David L leads home a gaggle of other cars. Mark Point finishing just behind one of the others there. Out of the final corner, Rick Vigar's going to throw everything at Andrew Hoffman here if he can get a bit of drive out of that final turn. He's got some there, but I don't think it's going to be enough. A flash of the lights to say thanks for the battle, and they finish less than 2 tenths apart. Out of the final corner, the group that we've been watching for so long tonight, Ernie Toss, Paul Burns, Andrew Listener, and Brett Horser will come home in that order. I'm still not entirely sure what happened for Brett Horser there. Damon Fisher almost catches Trav Daly again, only a couple of tenths in that. And out of the final turn, Scotty Perrins lights them up, trying so hard to catch Craig Rose, can't quite get the power down. And so that will cement 24th place for him, as looks like that's Ash Hall coming across the line as well. The last couple of drivers on track will be Mick Rudd, and I think Troy Sipple just crossing the line there somewhere as well. It's a pretty feisty opening round there, and we'll have to see what the 44 lapper brings. But for now, let's take a look at the results from race number 1 as we get them come through from the stewards. Brad Radu takes P1 by just under 7 tenths. Not too much pressure there from Brian Borg throughout most of that race. Borg just not quite finding the same pace. Connor Nixon takes third. Matt Vanderkruijm comes home in fourth, just ahead of Luke Orman. Dave Diddell, the highest place of the Cup Trophy drivers, comes home in 6th overall. But a very, very solid effort there over the rest of his Cup Trophy competitors. Jason Benson, Mark Poynton ahead of David Coleman and Troy Stone Street, rounding out your top 10. Then Ray Smith and Stephen Varga with Abel Burban and Andrew Hoffman behind them. Rick Vigar in 15th, Ernie Toth in 16th, then Paul Burns, Andrew Lister, Brett Horsell in 19th, and Trav Daly coming home in 20th, just ahead of Damon Fisher in 21st, and then the rest of the Cup Trophy drivers lined up behind him. James Hardy, Craig Rose, and Scotty Perrins, the last of the drivers to finish on the lead lap, with Jason Dunn, Brad Hayes, Ash Hall, Mick Rudd, and Troy Sipple all finishing a lap or more back. The thing that I wasn't expecting, I'll be honest, tonight, Isaac, no retirements in those 29 drivers. Everyone actually made it home in one piece, which I wasn't really expecting from this circuit tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think given that the drivers can jump into the pits, get a fast repair if they need to, it serves the purpose a little bit easier for them to get home. But the fact that they all did finish, as you said, very impressed. Congratulations to all of them. Hopefully that will remain to be the case in race 2 coming up. But a couple of drivers do finish off the lead lap, a couple of laps down for a handful of drivers there, and 1 lap down for quite a number. So that goes to show as well, it's not a super long lap, only a minute 13. There's a very easy and very high likelihood that if you make a mistake around here, you can go a lap down. And if you go a lap down, unless we get a safety car, that pretty much is game over for you trying to make massive inroads in this race. So the last thing you want to do, especially if you want to fight for a top 10 and you have an incident and you want to fight back through the field, the last thing you want to do is go a lap down. So what can they do in race 2 coming up remains to be seen, but I, for one, am very excited and looking forward to what lays ahead. Will we get a safety car? I certainly hope so.
Well, and that's the almost the surprising thing from that first race, is that we didn't actually get a safety car out of that. We were close to it. I know Simon was in the Porsche with the belts being done up and being ready to race out there, but everyone actually got away from that opening turn fairly cleanly in the end. It didn't actually end up ending anyone's race or anything like that. So who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. But 44 laps is an awfully long time. Couple that with the 2 compulsory pit stops as well, and yeah, we might be in for something a little more spicy, I reckon, for race number 2. In the meantime, though, we will take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is Simple Racing Broadcast coming to you from St Petersburg with the Alliance Sim Racing Gard Supercar Championship. This is round 3. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks. It is, of course, just about time to get gridded up here for race number 2. 44 laps lie ahead here at St Petersburg. 2 compulsory pit stops, I think, are going to be really crucial here tonight to the success or failure of anyone's race strategy. Isaac, I think we've seen enough to know that the undercut really can serve a massive purpose in these cars at any circuit. I'm just wondering how much that might play in tonight with a 60% fuel limit. I don't know about you, but I'm not expecting fuel to come into the equation really here tonight. I mean, you could obviously end up over-fueling or under-fueling yourself, but assuming that everyone's on the ball with that, it's not going to be a race of fuel saving really that's going to get you there. I'm wondering if we start to see a few drivers coming in, lap 1 to take that early compulsory pit stop.
Yeah, look, it very well could happen. I wouldn't be surprised at all, but again, we talk about the short lap time around here. You don't want to spend too long in that pit lane, because if you do, you'll find yourself going a lap down pretty quickly. Remember, it's 60% fuel limit, so pitting on lap 1 probably won't yield you that much of a benefit, but looking at our grid here, I think there might be a couple of drivers that want to get out of the traffic early.
Yeah, no doubt. This is how they line up for race 2. No reversal of the grid here tonight, so it's going to be as they finished in race 1. Brad Ratu and Brian Borg will take the front row with Connor Nixon and Matt Vanderkran behind them. Luke Allman and David Vidal, the 266 Sim Racing entries, line up alongside each other on row 3 with Jason Bent and Mark Poynton behind. Then David Coleman and Troy Stone Street rounding out your top 10. Behind that, Ray Smith and Stephen Varga line up on row 6. Then Abel Verban and Andrew Hoffman with Rick Vigar and Ernie Toth behind them. Paul Burns and Andrew Listener on row 9. Brett Horsell and Trav Daly round out your top 20 for race number 2. Damon Fisher and James Hardy just outside of that bracket. Then Craig Rose and Scott Perrins, Jason Dunn and Brad Hayes with Ash Hall, Mick Rudd and Troy Sipple rounding out the rest of the names on the grid. Simon Haynes and Todd Martin. Look, they got away without having to get in the car for race number 1. I'm still not convinced we're going to get away with it for race 2.
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced that we will either. I think there's a bit of chatter going on in the chat on YouTube about how long until we see a safety car. Matty Morgan thinks within 3 laps, and look, I think that's not too bad a call. It's pretty hard racing out there, and everyone sort of knows the limits of these cars and where the walls are off the start, so we could see gloves getting off just a little bit more at the race start. Here's a bit more to fight for in this race, more points on offer than there was in the sprint race, and everyone's a little bit more accustomed to this circuit now, so I will not be surprised if we see gloves off.
Yeah, I tend to agree. That said, you've got to be so careful with these sort of tracks where the laps are so short. You've got to push on really hard, really early, for sure, but it's not going to take much. If you get spun around, or if you have to go up one of the exit roads here, and you're doing that in the opening 2 or 3 laps, you're going to have to wait until this entire field goes past before you can rejoin. That's the reality of these sort of circuits, and so you really can't afford to push beyond the limits and find yourself in that position. That's the worst case scenario for our front runners here tonight. So they really do need to make sure they keep their heads screwed on. We are about 10 seconds away, I think, from having all of our drivers on the grid. Just taking a look down the list, Trav Daly is just about the last driver now to jump in for this one. So we'll just be waiting on him back in 20th. But the rest of the grid on there and lined up, ready to go. Brad Ratu and Brian Borg off the front of this one. We'll be looking to get a clean run into turn 1. Keep your eye on Jason Bentz back in 7th, the first of the Quantum Racing cars. He had a really slow start in race 1. If he can remedy that, he might be in for a nice finish here as well. As we go to starters orders, we are under lights. And we are away for race number 2. That's the start tonight, though. Connor Nixon struggles off the line, gets the tyre spin happening, and he can't quite get the car moving as quickly as he'd like. Down into turn 1 we go. Are we going to get through it cleanly? There's the question. Look, I don't know what to expect here, Isaac. We are still side by side as we come through turn 1 and 2. We've got a slowdown being cleared pretty quickly there for Bentz. A big moment in the background. That's Borg that's gone around. Brian Borg has been hit, and he has ended up spun in the middle of the track. The rest of the field charging past him as best they can, but that was a big hit. Mark Poyton's been caught up in it as well. He's carrying a meatball already. So for a couple of the front runners, this is not the start they would have wanted. Out in front, though, have a look at Brad Radu pull away from Vanderkraan and Allman, already over a second out in front as they come onto the back straight for the first time. I am wondering if we've got a safety car on track or not. It looks like we perhaps do. I'm just trying to take a look and see. It's not rolling just yet. No, Simon Haynes
still in the pit lane.
Look,
so
I think we're going to get around.
He's eager.
Yeah, he's there and he's waiting, and I appreciate that from Simon Hayes. He's ready to go if he needs to, because that was a pretty big one to kick this off. But it does look like, for the moment, and again, in fact, from the last race, we're going to have the same circumstance. Everyone's managed to get away from it cleanly somehow. I've got no idea how. Connor Nixon gets it back through ahead of Dave Diddell, so he's trying to get back up through after a pretty disappointing start for himself. But have a look at the pit lane starting to light up already. Poyton's in for some repairs. Brian Borg will be in for some as well. Hoffman and Coleman coming in early. I don't know if they got caught up in it. I suspect they might have. We're going to have to go back and take a pretty close look at that.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of dissecting just to work out exactly what happened there. I feel like maybe Connor Nixon also potentially got caught up in that because he's lost 2 spots off the start. So there's a little bit that went on there, a little bit of argy-bargy from a couple of drivers, elbows out, and it's caused a couple of issues, but we push on now. And for Brian Borg, Mark Poyton, Brian Borg especially, who's at pit exit, he shouldn't go a lap down here. He should get away with it. However, and here we go. This is what happened to Brian Borg. A touch up from one of the 266 cars, actually. Massive hit from Mark Poyton. So that was that secondary contact we saw. Has torn the rear bar off of Brian Borg's car, so no wonder he's coming to the lane. He will stay on the lead lap, so he's back out there, as will Mark Poyton. So crucially, both cars stay on the lead lap. They've ticked off a mandatory stop, which means if they can push off from here, they might be all right. But looking at this replay, this is one of the Quantum cars, and
James Hardy goes around as well.
James Hardy, that's contact with Hoffman, I believe. So that is unfortunate, and kept it out of the wall though, which is crucial. Very wide there. Who was that went with us? Jason Dunn that went very, very wide.
The alternative line through that one.
It is the alternative. I thought he was in the wall for a second, and then he does appear. A little bit of a touch up under brakes with James Hardy, so it's still going on between these two. They're going to go side by side into the heavy braking zone, the right-hander through to the left-hander, so they're going to continue this, but I think James Hardy will come out on top here.
Yeah, Jason Dunn about to be absolutely swamped. Sips Rose both there as well, and Brad Hayes somewhere not too far behind. So there's plenty of Quantum cars around, and yeah, look, I think Jason Dunn's going to be feeling a little bit outnumbered for the next little while. Lots of blue and yellow on the track around him. In the background, is that Mark Poyton just floating around in the back there? It's not. It's one of the Brad Hayes. Sorry, the 266 sim racing car. The lime green got me for a moment there, but Hayes is right in amongst it in 22nd at the moment. Plenty of battles further back through the field here tonight. This is what we're going to see here all night, I suspect. We're already into the 4th lap, and out in front, Brad Ratu is well and truly out there. Dave Diddell has picked up a black flag, and I suspect that might be iRacing issued.
It very well could be. I'm not entirely sure.
No, there it is. Pit lane penalty is just come through from race control. So I didn't see that one pop up in our usual place for
and that would have been for the contact with Brian Borg.
Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, that will absolutely do it. Brian Borg finds himself at the moment down in 26th, so he's really counting on that undercut being pretty strong for him now. It'll have to be. He's got a long way to climb back up through the field here. Brad Radovet in front, Matt Vanderkraan and Luke Allman again still pretty close together this time around, but they're both up a couple of spots thanks to that early chaos. David Dell's coming in to serve that penalty now, so that's going to drop him a fair way down the pack. You'll see him start to fall down through the tower on the left of your screen. Troy Stone Street Ray Smith and Stephen Varga, all within striking distance of each other. But at this stage, I think everyone just trying to settle in a little bit for what does promise to be a pretty challenging race still ahead of them.
Yeah, this is it's a long time as well. It'll fly by, but it is a long time behind the wheel of this car up the inside now. Brad Hayes and Craig Rose. Craig Rose going to swoop back around the outside though, keeps the momentum up through the second phase of the first corner. And I thought he was in the wall there for a second, but he's got away with it. Someone's rear bar sitting, or front bar even, sitting just off the circuit. There you go.
Might have been, yeah.
James Hardy. Yep, there we go. Solved the mystery. The car without find the quantum car without the front bar, and that'll tell you who exactly it belongs to. So James Hardy lost his front bar there as well, so he'll be walking wounded out there, as it seems a couple of cars are. I'm surprised there's not more with scratches and marks on them at the moment, considering all the action that we've seen that's happened in these opening laps. We're only 5 laps in, folks. It feels like so much has happened already, but there is a couple of battles still happening up and down this field. Luke Orman doing his best to keep up with Matt Van der Krank at the front of this field, but once again, Bradley Radu is just absolutely pulling away. About 2 seconds that gap now between himself and Matt Van der Krank.
Paul Burns goes in, Brett Horsell in as well, so maybe not quite as early as we were expecting, but they're starting to flow now, aren't they? Dunn's in, Duddell's in, he's served his pit lane penalty and he's now in to make his first compulsory stop. This is going to really shake up the order a fair bit. David Coleman was one of 4 drivers that came in on that opening lap. Now, I don't think he actually came in for damage. I think he's come in for the undercut. And as it stands right now, looking pretty good for it, I reckon. He is well and truly out in front. Damon Fisher is the next driver behind, who pitted on lap 4. So there's, 7 seconds between them. We're seeing about 47, 48 seconds in the pit bay. The gap right now from Dave Coleman up to Brad Ratu is about 38 seconds. So there is, look, our numbers are often a little bit out of whack here in our telemetry, but I don't think they're usually far enough out to suggest that Brad Radu's got that much of a lead up, more than the 38 seconds that we're seeing there. I reckon there's a good chance that Coleman's going to find himself really nicely placed as this all starts to wash out over the next few laps.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I'm most looking forward to as this continues to play out as well is just what the undercut is like. How strong is it going to be if you decide to come in? I'm just looking at the times for Brian Borg. He's still in the 1:13, so he is pretty quick out there. He's actually not too far off the pace that Bradley Radu's doing, so he's actually pretty quick. This is Brett Horsell. Parks it into the tyre barrier front on. That was a very hairy moment. Got it all locked up, pretty much both fronts fully locked to try and stop that car. He's still got a little bit of damage on that front bar, but not as bad as it could have been. But that was a very scary moment. It would have happened in slow motion for him as well. You can see the lines on the road still there from him just sort of going straight in. And again, that's the undulation in the road, catching drivers out. There's just a little bit of ups and downs, more than you'd expect. And it is going to, as this race continues, the tyres continue to wear as well, Jared Cole. As they get worse and worse, it's going to become harder and harder to make these cars stop where you want them to.
This is the joy of street circuits, though, isn't it? It always throws it in there a little bit. You just don't have the same quality, the same smooth surface that you get at a racetrack, and that's okay. That's one of the appeals of street circuits. But geez, I tell you what, you nap for even a moment behind the wheel of a Gen 3 supercar around any street circuit, and it's going to remind you that that's exactly where you are. It will absolutely come back to bite you. Scott Perrins and Craig Rose change positions just ahead of David Coleman as he comes out of the final corner now. A little bit further up the road though, Jason Benson, Connor Nixon getting into it. A big nudge along there from Nixon. Benz just not going as quickly through that corner as Nixon perhaps wanted him to. I guess Benz carrying a bit damage on the front end there. I say a bit, he's missing his front bar entirely, so that's dropped off somewhere. Smoke in the air, what's happened? Someone's had a big lock up there, big moment, and I'm not entirely sure who it is. But I do see Jason Dunn flagging as having had a bit of an issue, so we'll have a look and see if that might have been him in just a moment. Just to want to keep an eye on this though, because Connor Nixon is charging hard. He's about to push. There we go. So Benz goes in, Connor Nixon continues on. And let's go back and take a look and see if it was Jason Dunn into those tyres again. It might have been, and it certainly looks that way. Here's the lock-up. Big slide. Oh, he manages to get it. Oh, just a tiny touch, but it's enough to drop that front bar off the car and onto the ground. And under it goes. That's gonna play a little bit of havoc with the front end downforce under brakes. But thankfully, a relatively low-speed circuit with not too many opportunities for that to cause too much drama for him. So he'll push on, I'm sure. Connor Nixon now needs to get his car moving along as quickly as possible. Matt Vanderkraan, just up the road, you can see is the next target here. Finds himself sitting in second at the moment, 5.5 seconds back from Brad Ratto. And just taking a look, tell you what, the undercut has been good to David Coleman, but not as good as Luke Allman's looking right now. He's been in and out on lap 8 for his first stop, and he finds himself in 13th. So he'll be one to watch as well. But I think with the clean air that the Logitech G ODBM drivers are finding themselves with, they're going to be hard to slow down. Vanderkraan comes in, Nixon comes back along the front straight. He'll stay out. So it's going to be Radu and Nixon, the two Logitech G ODBM drivers that lead this race for the moment. 34 laps to go, and both of them with 2 compulsory pit stops yet to come. There's a long way to go before this one's decided. David Collins on the side, they just avoid a car in the wall. That's Scotty Perrins into the same tyre barrier. Benson Coleman coming through there was so lucky not to collect him.
Yeah, that was very, very lucky indeed. That was a massive moment, and they've done well to take avoiding action. Got to be pretty switched on, especially the street circuit. It's so narrow to try and make sure you avoid. So Matt Vanderkraan into the lane as well. A couple cars now deciding to get out of the way. Scotty Perrins, of course, decides it is time for his pit stop. We are on lap 10, so only 10 laps in, and drivers are trying to go for this early stop, maybe to cover off undercuts as well. Jason Bentz will be one that Matt Vanderkraan is probably a little bit concerned about. He's come back out behind Bentz, so it's interesting to note in terms of the undercut as well, because I believe Vanderkraan was ahead of Bentz before that stop happened. This is what happened to Scotty Perrins. Massive lock up into the tyre wall.
Look at how close that was though behind him.
That's so close. They've done very well to avoid him.
That's a really tough spot for Scotty to have been stuck in. Oh no, David Coleman has gone into the wall, and that is such an awkward spot. He's just going to have to sit this out and just wait now to get rolling. That is a really, really rough spot, and I don't know if he can get it moving. He's got very, very little room here, and the traffic is just going to keep coming. This is going to oh no, he's mistimed it, and unfortunately a little bit of a nudge there from one of the 266 drivers. It's so dangerous and just heartbreaking for David Coleman. He was running so well. It's all just coming a bit undone, as we've seen a few other issues. Dave Diddell, Scott Perrins, Emil Verban all having some issues as well by the look of things. So we've got chaos out on track at the moment that we're going to have to try and catch up with. Luke Allman's coming past Troy Sipple, so he's going to carry on and keep pushing towards the front. So that's good news for him. We do have some good news around the track, which is, always a nice change. But let's take a look at some of these incidents. David Coleman, what happened to him? The Chubby Buns replay. Did he just get on the power a little too soon out of this turn? Is there a nudge? How did he end up facing there? Oh, just under brake, slides it all the way out. And then how does this happen? Oh, he's got on the power just a little too hard. The rear tyre is already overheated from the slide. And how awkward is that? That is awful. As we see another pit lane penalty come through for car 39, Dave Diddell. So let's see what's happened here. Is this? Well, there you go. Is that for that contact, I wonder?
I wouldn't think so. I feel like that's potentially more on... Look, at the risk of creating an enemy of myself.
Scotty Perrins.
Massive, it's a huge incident. That is a huge hit in the wall for Scotty Perrins. And that was very, very massive, heavy contact with the wall. And no wonder they're both
Verban on the way
lane.
Out of the pits. No, Scott Perrins on the way out of the pits.
Scott Perrins and
Abel Verban.
Abel Verban. So huge contact for the two of them. And look, I think that was more on David Coleman than anything else. That contact that he had. And look, here we go, out of the pits, massive hits, and that's such an awkward re-entry moment for Scotty Perrins coming out at full speed. Abel Verban, not really anything he could do there besides just be a passenger in that situation. very unfortunate. And David Coleman and Dave Liddell, I feel like that's more of a racing incident than anything else, I would argue. I don't know necessarily if
Unless
that's too much.
Something else that we've missed there, of course, which can happen.
I wouldn't put that on. I wouldn't put that on Dave. I might put it on. Well, I wouldn't put that on Dave Liddell. I might put it on Dave Coleman.
You know what? I'm leaving that with race control.
I think it's more of an unsafe re-entry, but even then, what are you going to do on a street circuit? You've sort of just got to try and flick spin the car and pray, don't you, that no one's there. So, awkward moment for sure. We'll try and get to the bottom of what that drive-through is for Dave Liddell, but I think he's chosen to park the car at the end of the day, so it doesn't look like he's actually going to jump back out from that drive-through, so maybe just elected to park the car. But we'll continue on, and this is Andrew Lissner back out of the pits with Brian Borg. So Brian Borg, as the pit stops are shaking out, up to 14th place. Is there any drivers left in this field to stop? There is 3 drivers left to stop. 4 drivers left to stop. Well, one's just come in. We've just had Ray Smith jump in. Ash Hall is yet to come in. Craig Rose yet to come in.
And disqualification for Scotty Perrins for an unauthorised tow, and I imagine that'll be after the incident. Just then with Abel Verban, yes, would be my guess. So. As you're saying though, a few drivers left to pit still. Connor Nixon's been in and out. Brad Radu out in front still going. Stephen Varga's still going before the first pit stop. Ash Hall right now must be filling the top of the world. He's up 23 spots, but still needs to make his first pit stop. So I don't know if this is shaking out really well or if he's going to drop a long way down. I have a thought that perhaps he's not going to come out of this quite so cleanly, but you know what, enjoy it for the moment. Ash up in 4th right now, and certainly the biggest mover at this stage of the race.
Yeah, very big mover, and look, he'll be loving the fact that he is in P4. A safety car right now would do him absolute wonders, wouldn't it, to try and help him stay up the point end of this field. But for now, he will be putting the pressure on Luke Orman. This is great for Connor Nixon, who just gets to sort of run away into the distance. I'm just looking at pit times as well for these guys, because Connor Nixon spent about 12 seconds in the pit lane, in his pit box I should say, whereas about 20 seconds for someone like Jason Bent. So there's about an 8-second difference in their pit time as well, which will play a factor. We saw last week at Road Atlanta, it played a role, and as Ash Hall now does dive in for his stop, so it played a role at Road Atlanta, and it will potentially play a role this week, because they're about 7 seconds behind at the moment, behind Connor Nixon, which if they play out as it's predicted to in terms of their pit stops, they will jump Connor Nixon in this second stop. So he's got to get the foot down while these guys battle and try and capitalise to pull away and create a bit of breathing space to negate that pit stop time he has to make up in pit stop number 2 later on.
I do want to take an opportunity. Let's go back and take a look at the incident with Scotty Perrins and Abel Verban, but I want to go on board with Abel Verban and just see what it was like from his view. The Chubby Buns replay, absolutely no warning, just thump. All of a sudden, there's a quantum car there. Look, short of the relative, I don't know that he would have had much of a view, and I don't know it would have been much better for Scotty Perrins. This is the view from his car as he comes back out onto track. It's looking clear. He's back on there, and then all of a sudden, around he goes. Big hit on the wall. Look, that's a tough one. It really is. That the pit exit here. I hadn't given it much thought before seeing that one, but it is pretty treacherous, isn't it? It's a high speed, full noise sort of acceleration out of turn 1 and 2 for the drivers that are out on a live lap. But as you come back out of the pits, you're kind of expecting to just have some space there.
Yeah, you certainly do, and the fact that there was not a lot of space is a little bit awkward. These corners are a little bit awkward. It's a massive moment there for Troy Stonestreet. I thought he was going on the wall. He's sideways again, so this car is sliding at the moment. Jason Bent's looking to capitalise. He's about to move up the inside, goes forward under brakes, a drive-through penalty for car 640. That's David Coleman.
That'll be for the.
So that'll be for the Dave Liddell incident.
Yeah, I would think so.
So but a lovely move from Jason Bentz there up the inside, gets that overtake done, and now is clear. Troy Stonestreet can try and push on after Luke Orman, who is now just over 7 seconds behind Connor Nixon. So that's the gap I'm going to keep an eye on, folks, and I think It's a gap we should all maybe keep just one eye on, because remember, there is that pit time difference mostly between Bentz and Nixon. The pit time difference between Allman and Nixon is only about 4 seconds, so not as long. But Jason Bentz, if he can catch back up to Luke Allman and they stay within that bubble, there could be an opportunity for Jason Bentz to find himself in second place. Interesting to note, Bradley Radu yet to pit in this race.
Yeah, look, so still a little way to go yet before he'll be too concerned about making a stop, but you'd have to be starting to think about it sometime soon. A question coming through in the chat from A. McGregor. G'day, welcome on in. Good to have you with us. Don't they have spotters? Look, yeah, some of these guys are absolutely running, human spotters, and then of course there are a number of AI or built-in spotters within iRacing, but they don't actually give you much in the way of info in terms of speed and closing speed. Look, if you don't have a human spotter watching for someone coming out of the pits here, the way that the pit exit is set up here is actually pretty treacherous. It won't really call out that there's a car exiting the pits in a lot of cases. It'll call out when you get alongside them, and by the time those guys were alongside each other, they were in contact already. So yeah, really unfortunate. You do need to keep a pretty close eye on the relative black box that's available to you, which does show your distance to the next car in either seconds or in some cases meters. But even then, I don't know how anyone could have predicted that outcome. It's just unlucky that they both exited at exactly the wrong time. They both came alongside each other exactly the wrong time, and that's how it's played out, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It is super unlucky, and yeah, something you've just got to be very, very aware of.
It's the tyre barrier again.
So it is the tyre barrier, and again, it's this braking zone. It's just there's a little bit of undulation in the road, not anything major, but just enough. It's unsettling the cars. They're carrying too much speed, and that tyre barrier does stick out a fair way from the wall. So it's catching a number of drivers out this evening. It's continuing to claim victims as we get further into this race. Dave Zadell was out on track, but back into pit lane once again. So David Coleman is at pit exit, so he's served that drive through. I think he is rolling. If I check my list, he is rolling. So he's back out on track now and has served that drive through penalty. Andrew Listener in the lane for his stop. Still yet to come in is Brad Radu, but there's no major concern at the moment. They should get a fair way into this race on a tank of fuel, so no major cause for concern, but he is absolutely, he's doing 1:16s out there at the moment. Connor Nixon doing 1:14, so there's about a 2-second difference, or really about a second and a half difference between the two, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Connor Nixon to lead this race once Brad does stop.
Yeah, look, I don't know. It's going to be a pretty rough one, because Radu's not running the kind of pace that you might have expected. Whether he's just gotten caught up in some traffic on that last lap, we'll see what his next lap comes in at, because if it continues to be, in the 16s, then that just shows us the tyres that he's got on there are absolutely cooked at the moment, and he's not able to extract the pace. Here he goes, he's into the pits now, so obviously deciding that it's about time, or maybe just, listening in and taking our advice on it. Who knows, Isaac? But it is probably the best possible time at the moment. Brad Radu is in the pits, and keep your eye on Connor Nixon. Let's just see where they end up coming out. I think it'll be a lot closer than perhaps we were thinking initially. I do want to try at some point to get a good look at Andrew Hoffman's car, because it's a different livery for him here tonight for the Southern Cross Racing entry, and I'm not quite sure what it is that he's got on that car. I thought for a moment it almost had me thinking he was running the Solar Guard livery. It's very similar colours, but it's actually not. It's something a little bit different, so we'll try and get a bit of a look at that. If anyone in the chat does happen to know what it is that Andrew Hoffman's got on the car there, then let us know. We'll try and get a closer look at it at some point anyway. Connor Nixon comes out. Brad Radu comes out back in 5th. So the undercut, absolutely the way to go. Luke Allman up in 2nd, just ahead of Jason Bentz. And then we've got Troy Stonestreet and Brad Radu right here as well. Connor Nixon out in front by about 8 seconds at the moment, so he's pretty comfortable out there. But how well has that undercut worked out for Allman and Bentz? They both came in on lap 8. So it's only a few laps difference between Nixon and Stone Street, but Brad Radu, he's certainly not gained a whole lot by staying out that long, and in fact he's going to have to fight his way back through now.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work for him to get back through this field. Yeah, it's interesting that he's so far down in 5th place. I'm just looking at the pit stop times as well for these guys to see if there's anything
just as we cut away from that.
Oh no.
Brad Hayes and Craig Rose. No, look at the background. Just barely. Ray Smith.
Well to get around.
The reflexes on the exit there. He's just avoided Craig Rose as he's tried to get himself up and run again. That was a brilliant bit of driving from Ray Smith. Wow. What we're about to have a look at there, and we'll go back and we'll take a look now. Matt Vanderkraan, unfortunately, has come to some grief here somewhere by the look of things. Hits that curb, big slide, into the wall he goes.
Into the wall, and that explains the pit stop. That explains why him and Luke Orman are now in the lane. So Luke Orman's gone for a stop, and Matt Vanderkraan, as a result of that damage, has come in for a pit stop as well. So it explains that story. This is Brad Radu, so he's found his way past Jason Betts, so he's up into second now. He is some 10 seconds behind Connor Nixon, but so there's a little bit of work to do. There's only 3 seconds stop. No, actually, there's about a 10-second difference in their pit stop time. So Brad Radu, when he serves his second stop, will actually jump Connor Nixon if it stays as it is. So Connor Nixon needs to try and get the foot down, but Brad Radu has been the fastest car on track all day without question. We are at the halfway point of this race now, Jared Cole. We are well and truly into this race, and it is on here. We have not seen a safety car yet, though. That's shocking me, the fact we have not seen a single safety car somehow with the incidents that we've had.
Yes, I'm stunned, honestly. We've had some pretty big ones already here in race 2 tonight, but somehow these drivers have managed to get them more or less out of the way without incident, save for perhaps David Coleman being stuck in that really, really awkward spot. He's probably about the only one we've seen that has been a really, really tough break for the driver. Otherwise, though, despite some big hits, they've been relatively out of the way, I suppose, which is not something you usually expect in a street circuit with no margins really in it. But I don't know, everyone's just kind of pinballed around a little bit and ended up in a nice spot. A drive-through penalty there from car number 13, that's Craig Rose, and I suspect that's probably for that final corner incident we saw last lap. So he'll be serving a drive-through at some point as Jason Benson, Troy Stone Street. They carry on, but all they can do is look up the road. Brad Radu is just waltzing away at the moment, and Connor Nixon's going to be finding some pressure from his teammates probably a bit sooner. We think a 1:12.9 on the fresh tyres from Brad Radu. That is easily the fastest lap of this race. No one else has even gotten close to going to the bottom of 13. He's just run a 12.9. That pace is insane.
That's the first 12 we've seen all day, including in qualifying. So that is absolutely flying. They've been on the bubble pretty much all day as Matt Vanderkraan up the inside of Abel Verban makes that look nice and easy through the final corner. Not a place you'd typically see too many overtakes of the Chubby. We have seen a couple this evening, but
I think Verban got a little bit wrong through there. I think he might have even been off the grass on the entry to it. So
he very well looks quite wide. Mark pointing into the lane for his next stop as well. But yeah, Brad Radu, they've been on the bubble of a 12 all day, just haven't quite been able to crack it. And now Brad Radu says, I'll show you how it's done, boys. And absolutely, foot to the floor, has put down a marker. He is now just under 8 seconds behind Connor Nixon. So he is flying up to the back of his Logitech G ODBM teammate. And there might be a couple of team orders there. A bit of smoke here for, is that going slowly? Brad Hayes, and there was a lot of smoke there, so it could be a lockup, that could be a pop motor. I'm looking at see if he's
looks
rolling.
Like just tyre smoke, I think.
Rolling.
I think he's good, but this corner again, they're really having to push the brake and clips the curve, and it just
the inside wall.
Spins him around, and it's actually a nice little flick spin that gives us all of the smoke. So beautifully done from Brad Hayes. Gets underway again very, very quickly. Unfortunately, just not his night tonight.
No, almost a picture perfect flick spin. Similar one that Josh Harris has done. He could replace Josh Harrison and put that one on the
I'm not saying it won't happen.
as well.
I'm not saying it won't happen.
better. If you're listening, Josh Harris, better up your game, mate, because that's a pretty nice flick spin around St Petersburg. No, that was a good job. After, pretty awkward. I think that's the first time I've seen someone clip that inside wall this evening. Usually it's running wide and hitting that tyre barrier. So a bit of a different one there. Mix things up a little bit. There's Mark Poynton up the inside of Ash Hall as well. So Mark Poynton has served his second pit stop of the evening. Now gets to just try and run home from here if he can. Hopefully has enough fuel to make it to the end. A bit of a tall ask with 20 laps to go, but I'm sure he'll be able to get it done, because if I look on my, it's like 19 that Bradley Radu came into the pit lane, so you definitely possibly could get 20 laps out of a tank of fuel.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's going to be yet too hard from this point for these guys to get there. There's definitely plenty in it. The question is the tyres. Ultimately, we saw the pace. The Radu's come out on fresh tyres and he's run at 12.9. That is so much faster than anything else we've seen. It makes you wonder, are we going to see some more of those sort of times come through as everyone gets their second stop? Because there's a fair chance that a lot of these drivers didn't take fresh tyres on that first stop. It seems unlikely, because they are relatively quick to change. But are there some drivers that could run a slightly higher time if they do take the fresh tyres on that second stop as well? I don't know. We saw all of those first stops come through around, let's call it lap 10 to 12 for most of those drivers. 7 or 8 laps later, there's a lot more rubber down on the circuit. Brad Radu gets on some freshies, and he's out there running those times. Now, I think there's a lot to do with just his pace, but maybe, just maybe, the fresh tyres are what's absolutely going begging at the moment for these drivers. The problem, of course, is if you get in there and you take your second stop now, that means you've still got to do another, 18 laps or so on those tyres, and they're really only going to be good for maybe 10 laps before they start to really fall off. So decisions for these drivers. I'm glad it's not me having to come up with a strategy.
Yeah, that's definitely not something I want to be trying to come up with at all, because I'll be scratching my head. I'm very glad that when I do iRacing, there's a little automatic system that calculates my strategy for me and tells me when I need to pit and how much fuel I need to put in for the end of the race. It just calculates all that stuff for me. The wonders of modern technology, eh? I don't need to do it all myself. I can just have a little computer tell me what to do and just trust that it's probably going to get it right. This is Brian Borg all over the back of Troy Sipple. Looks up the inside into turn 1. Can he get this move done? Heavy under brakes. Look at that camera shot. Pans to follow along with Troy Sipple. I love these rotating camera shots, similar to what you do get on an actual supercar. It looks brilliant, doesn't it? And into the lane, a couple more drivers. So Paul Burns, James Hardy serving another pit stop as well. That's a spot gained for Brian Borg. He is on a charge back through this field. We haven't had a safety car yet, which I think he's probably kicking himself a little bit that we haven't had one, because that would have been a great opportunity for him to try and gain a couple spots. Although crucially for Brian Borg, he has served both pit stops. So everyone in front of him except for Luke Orman needs to pit again, which means that there is Matt Vanderkraan as well has also stopped again. But it means for Brian Borg there is opportunity for him to try and gain some spots here, because he is he doesn't need to come back into the lane. So there could be a top 10 finish on the cards here for Brian Borg.
Yeah, look, it'd be a massive recovery, wouldn't it? I don't know that we're going to see that much of a gain for him, but geez, you can hope. You can hope. He's certainly been putting the effort in to try and get back up through the field, but he's still a long way off. Even taking into account the extra pit stop that he's run over most of the people ahead of him, just in terms of sheer time to the leaders. And if we do take a look at you take a look at the gap back from the leaders for Brian Borg. He's a minute back from Connor Nixon, which really that puts him. Well, if we talk even a top 10 finish, he's still almost 50 seconds behind Matt Vanderkraan. That's about the length of a pit stop at this point. So there's going to be a lot of work still for Brian Borg to do if he wants to get back into the top 10. And I'm kind of leaning towards this one being the likely drop round for him. If he keeps up his performance at the rest of this season, then he won't be too upset to see this one being pushed off the records.
No, and that's the thing. If you can keep consistency across all but one round, that one round becomes a drop round, and it doesn't really matter too much But again, in case he does have a worse round than this, he'll want to maximise as much as he can out of this second race this evening. This is Ernie Toth, Matt Vanderkraan. So Matt Vanderkraan not able to find a way past Ernie Toth, who's yet to pit as well for his second stop. So he's creating a little bit of a headache. Bradley Radu was crashed, so that is interesting to note. According to race control, we've had an incident for one of the key contenders in this race.
Again?
Oh, it's the
No
tyre
way.
barrier once again. I do not believe it. And that is a heavy front-on impact as well for Brad Radu. So it is catching a few drivers out. Connor Nixon has decided it is time to capitalise. He's come into the pit lane to get his second stop out of the way. Brad Radu has followed him as well. So they're both into the lane. Jason Pence inherits the lead of this race. Up the inside now, Matt Vanderkraan thinks about a move at the corner that's caught so many out. And now we've seen one of the top guys. Oh, this is a big moment. This is Rick Vigar and Ash Hall, and Rick Vigar is not going anywhere. This could be the safety car.
And I reckon there's a big chance that's driven the decision there from Connor Nixon perhaps as well. Oh, this is dangerous. This is going to be chaos. That's Brett Horsell getting caught up in it. I can't quite think who that
Connor
was.
Nixon that just went through?
I think it was. That was.
It's either Connor Nixon or Brad Radu. One of them's just gone through and absolutely nailed getting away with that. That was a huge hit. Wow, that was it was a massive hit for Andrew. Was it Andrew Hoffman that made contact with Vigar there?
Brett Horsell. Brett Horsell.
Sorry, Brett Horsell.
As he came through there.
Huge hit. And that was one of the two, as we do see the safety car. So we get the first safety car of the evening, 29 laps into this race. We'll have to check the replay to see exactly which one of the two Logitech G ODBM cars that was. Either way, they absolutely thread the needle there.
Chubby Buns replay. This is Rick Vigar. Have a look at this as he spins around. Gets through the 801 car.
Oh, you cannot get closer to the wall.
I'm not actually sure who that was
wall.
coming through. It was either Connor Nixon or Brad Radu, but in either case, that was a very, very heart-in-mouth moment for them, I suspect. The Chubby Buns safety car out on track now, and Simon Haynes finally gets to have a bit of a drive. Connor Nixon is... he's looking pretty comfy right now. So is Luke Allman sitting in second. This is going to bunch them right up.
Maybe no hats to go.
Maybe it is. Rick Vigar has copped a massive hit there with Brett Horsell. I do want to go back and see if we can get a view of just what happened there with Vigar and Hall. The Chubby Buns replay will pick it up for us again. So Ash Hall comes through. Does he just clip a wall? Oh no, Vigar's going around the outside.
Out of the pits.
Yeah.
Out of the pits.
Is that what it was? It was too. Rick Vigar out of the pits. So the second time this pit lane exit has claimed a victim. We'll take a look with a focus on Vigar. And here he comes out of the pit lane. Full noise, and then there's Ash Hall.
Bang. Yeah.
So we've seen that twice tonight, and that should be massive warning to any other league that's got this track on their season list here. You need to be aware of that pit exit and just how much chaos it can cause. That's two drivers that have been absolutely punted into the wall there.
Yeah, that's a huge hit, and it's such a dangerous re-entry onto the circuit. But you're doing everything you can to follow the line of the driver. This is Matt Vanderkraan going up the inside, I believe, just before the safety car happened. Very deep though, under brakes, and almost puts it in the wall. Does well to pull it up and will roll on through. But this, as he turns up, that is Ash Hall just sitting there with the remnants of what was that incident. That pit entry, you're following the pit exit line, you're doing everything you can. It's really, I would say, on the driver coming through to be aware of a car exiting pit lane. You've usually got an AI spotter. Some drivers have an actual person spotting for them. You need to rely on those things and your sort of peripheral vision to notice a car coming out of pit lane. And unfortunately in that situation, neither Rick Vigar nor Ash Hall noticed the other one was there, and it's created a catastrophic result.
Yeah, it really did, didn't it? And that's twice we've seen it tonight, and that is enough for us to be very, 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 very aware of just how likely it is we're going to see it again. That said, probably the only redeeming factor at this point is that the safety car has meant that everybody on track has made their 2 stops at this stage. I'm not seeing anyone that hasn't been in twice. There's a couple drivers that may need to make another, potentially, just from a fuel perspective. We're talking, the likes of Dave Diddell all the way back in 27th. So I don't think that's going to cause too much concern in terms of the rest of the race results. But it does mean that we're pretty much in for 13 odd laps of full-on sprint to the finish, and that's going to it's going to be very, very interesting with the field all bunched up. I am a little worried about another safety car in the next 10 laps or so.
What's the famous Mark Scaife line? Safety cars breed safety cars.
Yep. Not wrong at all.
So there's a very high potential that we could see continued drama here. There's a couple of lap cars that are also sitting in between. I wonder whether that'll get sorted out before we do go racing again, because you can see there's a Quantum car sitting in 3rd place. It's not actually in 3rd place on track. I believe that could potentially, just looking at my screen to see who that might be, and I think it's Nick Rudd is the car, maybe. I think we've had a couple of cars that have been let go.
Yeah, there's a few just getting through there at the moment.
So they're pulled over to the side. So everyone will be in order, which is good to know, which means we should. It is the joys, but it means if they're doing that, we should get a restart this time by, which will give us 12 laps of all-out sprint racing. Multiple drivers on fresh sets of tyres. The only car at the front of the field inside that top 7 that isn't on a fresh set of boots is Luke Orman in 2nd place. He's been quick, but with Brad Radu and Jason Bentz and Troy Stonestreet all behind on brand new tyres, I think it's going to be a little bit of a rearward mission, looking back for Luke Orman to try and defend what he can to hold on to that podium. Connor Nixon probably trying to go for the free kick here, pull away early if he can. Luke Orman will want to go with him, but whether he's able to remains to be seen, especially with the tyres being some 8 to 9 laps older than those around him.
Yeah, look, I think Orman's just got to play really heavily defensively here. The challenge, of course, will be that main straight. That's where he's going to be most at risk, I think. He's coming onto that main straight, and if he doesn't have enough of a gap back to Radu, back to Bentz, back to Stone Street, then there's every chance he can reel him in there. So we take a look at Simon Haynes in the Chubby Buns Porsche, just getting his way around the circuit at the moment. At this stage, it looks like we might even have another lap yet, although it does look like he's starting to pull away now. So I think we're about to get handed over here, and indeed Connor Nixon's going to control this as Simon Haynes comes in to the pits, and we get ready to go green flag racing again. Connor Nixon has control of the field, and he's holding them all the way up at the moment. He wants to really make Luke Orman sweat here, but we get down to the start-finish line, and away we go. Connor Nixon leads them on down towards turn 1 for the first time. Let's see if we get through this cleanly. You can already see Radu having a bit of a look up the inside. A slight puff of brakes there from, I think it might have been Vargs, but through we go, and this is where it might just start to get a little bit hairy.
Yeah, certainly could create a couple.
Jason Bentz is around.
Jason Bentz is around, and he's going to bounce back across the track. There's more cars involved. Everyone's strewn across, trying to avoid here. There's multiple cars caught up down the field as well. That looks like trying
Andrew
to work
Hoffman,
out.
we've got James Hardy, Andrew Lister as well, I think.
Yep, and there's who else is involved here? Brad Hayes is coming through. There's a couple lap cars now trying to find their way through. Meatball flags for multiple cars. That is heavy damage to Jason Bentz, and as we said, the pressure that comes from a safety car restart, everyone bunched up, certainly makes for a more continually interesting run. And the safety car, is the safety car rolling? I don't think so. I think it is rolling, so we do have another safety car. So we will go straight back into a safety car, and we come back to that age-old adage of safety cars breed safety cars, and it certainly has proven the case here. First safety car of the night took 29 laps, Jared Cole. The second safety car of the evening just took one further, well, not even further, up to about 2 corners to re-emerge before we saw that happen again, which just goes to show once they're all bunched up and they're trying to do everything they can as a car is stopped on the side of the road there, working out who that is. Andrew Hoffman not able to go anywhere. That car is absolutely torn to pieces. He finally gets the tow back to pits, but it is it's going to be a fiery end of this race.
Well, I mean, are we going to see more of this over the next few laps? That's the question. I don't really know. I don't really know whether we're going to these drivers settle it down a bit, or if there's going to be a war of attrition and just who can survive the restarts. Let's see if we can get any kind of an idea of what's actually happened there. Originally Jason Bentz, and I wonder if there's been a bit of contact here or if he's just overcooked it. Yeah, just overcooks it a bit there. Look at the dive to the left there from one of the 266. Oh, and really unfortunate that for another 266 entry get caught up. And look at that, just everyone piling on in. It's mostly been his Quantum teammates, but Andrew Listener, really unfortunate. I think he's just come on through with absolutely nowhere to go. There's a bit of smoke. He's following another car through, and then all of a sudden, yeah, the car ahead. I'm not quite sure who that was, but the car ahead's just parted ways, and Listener's been facing the bonnet of Jason Bentz's Mustang.
Yeah, it's still trying to unpack having their classic commentator's curse, we're being told. So apparently we've got to put our hand up for that one. That's yeah. Look, we called it. We said it would happen, and it absolutely did, and that's on us because we've cursed it. But it means for Luke Allman, the pressure is off a little bit here. He was right under pressure from Brad Radu on the restart there. Here we go. This is on board with Andrew Hoffman, and you see here there's smoke up ahead. He tries to dive to the left, tries to dive to the right, doesn't know where to go, and unfortunately, you've run out of road. You've got 2 cars pointing perpendicular to where you're trying to go, and they're essentially blocking the track. We've got your track blockage finally, even if it was slightly temporary. But for Andrew Hoffman, he's trying his best to pick a direction, and you have to commit eventually. And unfortunately, that was the end of his day into the.
Well, that's an awkward spot to be making that wave
so
around.
Awkward. Matty Morgan got away with not calling it, so that's on us this time, not Matty Morgan. Typically, it's Matty Morgan that's jinxing some sort of safety car incident, but he's got away scot-free this time. His hands are clean.
Now, I think it might have been Damon Fisher, the luckiest escape of all in that. He's ended up with a black flag, I think incident points, unfortunately, but take a look at this. We'll have a quick look before we do go green again here. I think this might have been Damon Fisher that just barely jinked out of the way here. Have a look at this. Just oh no, he's pretty squarely copped that. Okay, so it must have been Paul Burns then on the way through. Someone just snuck through there, and I thought it was a 266 racing car, but it might have actually been Paul Burns who's just barely managed to flick out of the way here. Just sneaks around, just obscured by the bridge, but just sneaks through the car width that was available to him. Nothing in it at all.
No, absolutely nothing left in that. That is, yeah. Look, it's an unfortunate incident, and for most of those guys, it looks like they've reset. There's a couple of guys still in the pit lane. So Jason Bentz in the lane, Andrew Listener in the lane, Damon Fisher and Horsell, Andrew Hoffman also in the lane. You can see there, that's Paul Burns. Sort of tries to get away with it and actually does a pretty good job of avoiding pretty much all of that. So he's kept it tidy. And it's changed the look of the drivers at the top end of this field. Troy Sipple up 16 spots. Drivers that are still rolling around on this track. We have 18 cars on the lead lap still. And then we have 4 drivers still rolling that are a lap down. So we have 22 drivers still remaining in this race. We have lost a fair number of drivers, I would say, after not having any DNFs in race number 1. Again, probably a commentator's curse on our part for calling that out in the first place, but it's been fairly action-packed, and that was a fairly major incident. We lost quite a number of cars. Ben's Listener and Hoffman, and Damon Fisher as well, I believe, was a victim in that. James Hardy's been a victim of some incidents this evening. David Dell is out on track again now, which is good. Brett Horsell's back out on track. Andrew Hoffman has parked that car. Scott Perrin's disqualified for... I'm trying to remember what he did get disqualified for.
That was for the tow.
That's correct, yes.
The unauthorised tow after the massive impact with Abel Verban on the pit exit. That was the first time around, the first pit exit, and then of course the exit from Rick Vigar was the next one, and this is pretty much where we find ourselves now. 8 laps to go. Simon Haynes bringing that safety car into the pits as Connor Nixon gets set to take us underway once again. Coming around the final corner, I wonder if he's going to try and hold Orman up again this time, or if he's going to go early. It looks as though he's going to just hold off as best he can. Oh, now that's interesting.
This is interesting.
Is alongside. There's a bit of contact there.
Luke Orman's not happy.
I think that'll be getting called in, I'm sure. Radu goes up the inside of Orman, and so does Stone Street. I'm going to leave that one to the stewards to figure out, because that looked a little bit interesting from my perspective.
I am not going to touch that one. I'm just going to leave that to the stewards to work out. But yeah, that's certainly interesting indeed. And it's all happening in the background. Was it Brian Borg? It is Brian Borg up the inside. So we thought a top 10 might be a little bit out of the question, but it absolutely is not. And he is trying to go the long way around on Stephen Varga to get up into 6th place. A P5 could be on here for Brian Borg if he keeps this up. He has absolutely been able to capitalise. He's got Matt Vanderkraan behind him as well. So Vanderkraan in 8th place, Mark Poynton 9th, and Paul Burns rounding out that top 10. The first of the Trophy Cup class is Abel Verban in 11th spot with Ernie Toth right behind him. They're all in a row, those top 4 cars in the Trophy Cup class. Verban, Toth, Sips and Brad Hayes. And then Ash Hall is a couple seconds further back behind them with David Coleman in between, but there's still a lot to play for in this one. Luke Orman, has he got anything to fight back on with Stone Street, try and get himself onto a podium? Will there be a time penalty applied for Brad Radu for overlapping before the control line? What exactly is the protocol there? How does that work? We'll have to wait and see what the stewards come back with for sure, but no doubt that'll get investigated. What comes of it, not completely certain. This is David Coleman trying to find a way past Brad Hayes. It's all to play for here. We've got 6 laps. We have got a green flag lap though, Jared Cole, which is crucial.
Yeah, not what I was expecting, but we'll absolutely take it, and I'm hoping we get a nice clean sprint all the way to the end. I can't remember us ever finishing under a safety car, and I'd hate for tonight to be the first time that that's happened for ASR. I think a nice clean run to the end here is what all the drivers will be hoping for. Stephen Varga, Brian Borg, Matt Vanderkraan right in the thick of it, as well as Mark Poynton, who somehow has found himself still floating around the front despite getting caught up in a few early incidents here and there. All in all, though, we've got a pretty mixed bag of drivers up the front that perhaps we weren't quite expecting to get back up here. I think the big standout for me, Brian Borg, making his way back up to 7th, has been a massive drive after getting caught in what I think was only lap 1 or 2 of this race, wasn't it? That he found himself all the way to the back, and he's back up into 7th, which even if he doesn't make it any further in the next 5 laps, you cannot argue with the drive that he's had and the way that those pit stops have played out for him tonight. It's been a massive recovery effort. Stephen Varga still stands between Borg and 1 extra spot, and it's getting to be a bit of a close thing here.
Yeah, it's going to be a very close finish between a lot of these guys. Brad Radu trying to stay with Connor Nixon as well. They'll fight it out for this race win. Luke Orman is starting to drop off Troy Stone Street, which will be frustratingly heartbreaking for him. He was in line. It seems every time Luke Orman is in line for a podium, something happens and it just comes unstuck for him, which is super heartbreaking. But I have no doubt he'll be up on the podium before season's end. A drive-through penalty for car 014. That is Rick Vigar. So that will be for the incident with Ash Hall on the exit of the pits, I would be led to believe. So I don't
have to think so. Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything else that stands out that he's done. So that would have to be the drive-through penalty that he'll have to serve. So we'll just come in straight away, get that one sort of ticked off as soon as he can. Where is he at the moment? He's coming towards him.
Right, that's tyre barrier as well.
That same tyre barrier catches another victim.
It's happened all night. It looks like Rick Vigar, whether he's in response to the penalty being issued, he's been distracted from it or not, I'm not sure. But it looked almost for a moment like he's just pulled over out of the way. Okay, so I was worried he was in the midst of a bit of an incident there, but it looks like he's just gotten out of the way and allowed some more traffic to flow on through. This one we'll keep a close eye on though. Borg, Vanderkrant, Poynton, Burns, Verban still in it as well as he tries to make a move on Paul Burns for the back end of that top 10. Out in front, Connor Nixon and Brad Radu are getting closer and closer. Radu is going to push very hard. He wants to get back out in front. It's going to be a very, very close thing. We've got a car parked off to the side. That's Andrew Listener, I believe, who has done himself some damage, and I suspect it might be that same tyre barrier. Again, we'll keep a close eye on this battle though. 4 laps to go here, and I don't think these two teammates are going to be taking easy on each other at all.
No, this is there's no team orders here. It is absolutely just go for it. Don't take each other out, but race hard. You've got Troy Stonestreet behind, who would love another race win to help his points tally. Connor Nixon would love to take this victory and cement his place at the top of the standings. And Brad Radu would love to go 2 from 2 tonight. That would be 2 weeks in a row. We've seen a debutant go 2 from 2. This is an engine pop for Andrew Listener. He's popped the motor. That is heartbreaking. And is he still on track? He is back in the pit lane now, so Andrew Lister's been able to get that toe pretty quickly, keep the circuit green, and he's back almost straight away, and there is no one stopped on that track anymore. Mick Rudd's still making his way back to the pit lane. Will push on actually, so hasn't actually elected to come in and repair that damage, just elected to continue trundling around, so that's interesting to note. But we have 3 laps to go when they cross the line, Jared Cole, and this battle for the lead is well and truly alive.
Yeah, I don't know if Radu's going to have the pace here to overtake Nixon. They've both been really quick all night. Radu's absolutely been blisteringly fast at times, but Nixon's got all the time in the world to defend here. A few laps at this point is not a big ask to defend. He's just got to keep his lines really, really clean and make sure he does cut these off. Now, car 100, a post-race 5-second penalty. That's Jason Bentz. Will have a post-race penalty, which is not going to impact us at the top end of the field. Unfortunately for Jason, he is a long way back after a night to forget for him, as well as a few other drivers in this field. It's been certainly a little more eventful than our first time out here at St Petersburg in race number 1. Race 2 has delivered us all sorts of interesting action, and it's not done yet. A couple laps left to go. The 2 Logitech G ODBM drivers out in front. Troy Stonestreet trying to hang on to the background. Luke Allman looks set to finish just off the podium. He's pretty comfortably in at 4th spot. There's a few minor placings to be sorted out as well. Matt Vanderkrant and Mark Poynton here at the tail end of a pretty close packed group. They're starting to get closer and closer as the laps wear on. I don't know if there's going to be enough time for anyone to make another move in this. David Coleman all over the back end of Troy. Sipple wants to try and pick up an extra spot if he can. He's recovered pretty well from that early moment that saw him drop so many places down through the field, and waited for an opportunity to rejoin the track. Here comes Brian Borg looking up the inside of Stephen Varga. He's not quite going to have the room to make a move there, but that is the warning shot that Vargas needs to keep an eye out for next time around. That's if Borg doesn't make another move before this lap's over.
Yeah, this is definitely Noviet. He really wants to get up in front of Vargas. I think he would have liked to have done it beforehand, so he could have a bit of a run at Ray Smith before the race was over, but he hasn't been able to get past. Vargas actually made that car as wide as he possibly can, which is brilliant driving from the Quantum Racing driver. We've seen him do that on multiple occasions throughout the last few seasons. He's just able to place that car in a way that makes it difficult for anyone really to get past, and he has just enough pace to be annoying. Brad Radu all over the back gap with Connor Nixon. That's about just under a 3/10 gap now. They are right there. There is one lap remaining, Jared Cole. There is not a lot of time left for Brad Radu to get something done. He needs to find somewhere to make this move happen. And I think at the risk of putting in the tyre barrier, that's one of the last couple of corners there. That corner we've seen everybody go in tonight could be the spot to get it done. But there is a couple of opportunities throughout the lap to try and get it done. He just needs to stay with him.
Look, I'll be honest, I don't know with the pace that both of these guys have had, barring a mistake from one of them, I don't know there is actually another shot here. I think Radu was too far back on the run into turn one that time around, and I think Nixon's far too composed to give him another crack at it over what's left of this final lap. That said, we do have a little bit of lap traffic that could become a factor. Thankfully, it's managed to clear out pretty easily in the end. It did look like it was about to become a real issue for both of these drivers, but as it stands, the two Logitech G ODBM drivers are going to take it home. It'll be 1-2, and I think it'll be in this order. Connor Nixon is on track to take the win here at St Petersburg. Brad Radu, for everything he's thrown at it all night tonight, that extremely long opening stint, he's going to have one last shot at it into the final corner. Can't quite get the nose up along inside. Connor Nixon holds him off and will take the win here at St Petersburg. The two Logitech G drivers celebrate as they make their way across the line. Troy Stonestreet home in third. Fourth place for Luke Ullman. Ray Smith will come home at the head of this group. Stephen Varga, Brian Borg, Matt Vanderkraan and Mark Poynton all right in behind. Abel Verman has done a brilliant job getting back up into 11th after that massive hit earlier on. Troy Sipple out of the final turn is side by side with Brad Hayes. He can't quite get there and ends up less than a 10th behind as the rest of the field makes its way through. Rick Vigar and Jason Dunn, the last cars on track to cross the line by the look of things, although Craig Rose is still out there somewhere. Where is he? There he goes, coming around now. But what a drive from the two Logitech G ODBM drivers. And look, Brad Radu, I think reason to celebrate a good couple of results for him in his first night out with ASR.
Yeah, that's exactly it. First and second, congratulations to Brad Radu and Logitech ODBM. They saw Mustang Mods do it last week and wanted to, with Jack Wittes and Brian Borg, and wanted to emulate that this week, and they certainly have done so in this second race. A 1-2 for the team. That is a brilliant result. Nothing separating at the end as well. That was a pretty closely fought battle across those last couple laps.
Yeah, and it didn't look like it was going to be that close initially, did it? But then that first safety car, and it changed everything from there. All of a sudden, everything compressed up. Now, I will be really interested to see later on in the week as we get the stewards reports coming through and any post-race changes. I'll be really interested to see if anything does come of that restart, though, for Radu. I'll be honest. I think, look, if Luke Orman didn't call it through, I'd be surprised. But we'll wait and see. We'll get an update on that, of course, at the start of round 4. For now, though, the results for race 2 finish up this way. Connor Nixon takes the win ahead of his teammate Bradley Radu. Troy Stonestreet comes home in third. Luke Orman, despite that restart and the issues that may come along with, a solid result coming home in fourth for 266 Sim Racing. He'll be really happy with that, I'm sure. Ray Smith comes home in fifth. Stephen Varga behind him, then Brian Borg and Matt Vanderkraan ahead of Mark Poynton and Paul Burns to round out your top 10. Then Abel Verman, the top place of the Cup Trophy drivers, coming home at just ahead of Ernie Toth with David Coleman in 13th. And then behind them, the remainder of the Cup Trophy drivers all just kind of bunched in there, really. Brad Hayes, Troy Sipple, Ash Hall and Craig Rose, the last drivers to finish on the lead lap. Behind them, just a multitude of issues for a number of drivers tonight. Mick Rudd finishes 1 lap down. David Adell and Brett Horsell 3 laps down. Further back through the field, Rick Vigar ends up 6 laps down, as does Jason Dunn, then Jason Bentz and Andrew Lister, and you start to see the impact of some of those big incidents that did happen in race 2 there. James Hardy and Damon Fisher in 25th and 26th, then Andrew Hoffman, Scotty Perrins and Trav Daly not starting either of the races this evening. So no points coming his way, I don't imagine, but really the night belonging to Connor Nixon out in front, a brilliant result for him, and we'll get him into the booth in just a moment. Your thoughts on that one, though, Isaac? I think it's delivered exactly what we expected from St Petersburg. It just took a little bit longer to get there.
Yeah, it certainly did. I was a bit worried we weren't going to get it, but street circuits, supercars, they always seem to create some sort of magic and a bit of drama as well, and that certainly was the case this evening. It was very, very action-packed, and well, I think we were expecting the safety car a lot earlier than what we ended up getting it, but it did arrive in the end. We did have a fair bit of side-by-side action, and those safety car restarts, man, were they exciting. That first one especially created a fair bit of drama, unfortunately at the expense of Jason Bentz, Andrew Hoffman, Andrew Listener as well, so that was super disappointing, but all in all, a great first outing for St Petersburg. Maybe just a couple of revisions on how the pit lane exit might work for leagues moving forward, just to make a note of that, because it is pretty tricky, that pit exit.
It is indeed. We'll just have a quick moment. I'm just waiting to see if we do get Troy Stonestreet joining us in the green room. But in the meantime, we'll bring him in for his first visit to the Simple Racing Broadcast comms booth. It is Brad Radu. G'day, mate. Welcome on in.
Thank you very much, boys. Good to be here.
Good to have you along. And geez, what a race that turned out to be. We were wondering if it was going to be, I don't know, perhaps a little bit of a processional kind of affair after race one. We didn't get the fireworks we were expecting, but that turned around in a hurry, didn't it?
Yes, I haven't looked back to see what happened, but it seemed like Brian had some issues off the start there. I guess it probably got him a bit of strife a couple corners in. I was expecting a pretty good race with him throughout the race, but ended up being on my own a little bit. And then, the safety cars at the end, just all back together again, made it a bit more exciting.
Yeah, and look, a really long opening stint from you that I imagine was hoping to pay off a little differently, but the safety cars probably put a bit of a spanner in the works for that plan. Was it always what you were aiming at, though, a really long opening stint and then just a splash and dash to finish?
Yeah, I mean, it was... I just wanted to see sort of how, this is the first go I've had at this track, so I just wanted to see, what strategy options are there. Just throw something weird at the strategy and see what happens, and if it doesn't work, then obviously don't do it. But it was more where I came out for the safety cars is more actually me putting myself in the wall. I don't know if it came up on the broadcast or not. I looked away, looked at my phone because it was going off, and looked back, and oh dear, I'm at the braking zone and locked up and hit a wall. So had to chuck it in reverse and get going again. It was, I think lap 20, we kind of decided that Connor needed more points than I did. He's in the championship hunt, I'm not as well, so that was also a bit of a factor, which even if I was in front, he would have ended up having the lead at some point anyway.
Well, kids, if you're watching at home, the moral of the story, as always, don't text and drive. It never ends well. And look, if nothing else, mate, you weren't the only one to catch that tyre barrier tonight. I feel like we've spent a good bulk of our night looking at people going into those tyres for a range of reasons. So you're certainly not alone. You're in good company there. Mate, a good set of results for you tonight regardless. Before we let you go, anyone you want to say hi to or send a shout out to in terms of sponsors?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Logitech G, iLiveries, Revolution Race Gear, Sam Blacklock Media, Hybrid Racing Simulations, and Fight CRC for their support into the team, and obviously all the boys at the team for helping us out for this race, and you guys for putting on the show.
It's been a pleasure and great to have you in the booth, mate. Hopefully not the last time we get to speak to you this season, but look, plenty more races yet to come. Thanks so much for dropping in.
No worries, have a good one.
Brad Radu takes a P2 there, and we do have Troy Stonestreet joining us now, who takes the lowest step on the podium, gets third in that second race. G'day, Troy. Good to have you back with us.
Yeah, guys, how you going?
Mate, we're doing pretty well. How are you feeling after that one? It looked like a bit of work out there tonight.
Yeah, 44 laps a long way around there, considering it's pretty tight. There's no real let up. You're on it all the time, so it's it was a long night, but good fun. New track, good fun.
Yeah, and look, first outing really for a lot of the drivers, and I'm sure a lot of practice laps have gone into tonight for it to be as clean as it was, despite the couple of late incidents that we did have. Is it pretty much what you expected in terms of a street circuit in these supercars? Was it everything you wanted it to be? Is there anything about it you found you really loved or perhaps hated?
It's no Adelaide or Belle Isle, but it's good fun. I got home from holidays last night myself, so I haven't really put heaps of time into it, but it was pretty fun to race on. It's quite technical. It's not an easy track with a few of them corners, but it was good fun, something different.
Well, mate, you've put it together pretty nicely and ended up with a decent result there out of all of those things. And to do it with so few practice laps tells me that maybe I'm missing a bit of experience over the years somehow, because it certainly wouldn't be me putting together those sort of times without a couple of days of it, mate.
I'm over the moon with that. I was sort of 10th in quali and wasn't really on the pace, and just, I don't know, good strategy, bit of fuel saver, and got lucky really. A few of the boys like Brian and Matty found it. Yeah, now I'm looking at the leaderboard. A few of them boys obviously had some bad luck because they were a lot quicker than me in practice. So I'll take it.
Mate, luck over skill any day of the week, I reckon. If luck's on your side, sometimes that's all you need. Mate, a great little race from you.
Track. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
No, thanks.
Anyone you want to say hello to before we do let you go, though?
Thanks I'll just thank you boys and obviously admin, ASR admin, and thanks to all the drivers. It was pretty clean out there, which, like you said, it was quite surprising to do that many laps and so few safety cars or incidents. So everyone sort of kept their heads screwed on, and it was good fun. So thanks to you guys for the broadcast, and hopefully speak to you again this season.
Fingers crossed, mate. I'm sure it won't be the last time. Thanks so much for dropping in to have a chat to us.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Westone Street takes P3, excuse me, in race number 2, and we go now to our provisional race winner. Connor Nixon stands on the top step after what was a pretty full-on back and forth there. Connor, g'day, mate. Welcome on back in again.
Hello, guys. It was a bit of a back and forth. You never want one of those races, but it seemed it went that way. So, it was good. Kind of buggered up the start as you do. I was sitting on the line and the lights just went out quicker than what I thought they would. So I was still prepping the car. So, and then off we went, and it was a bit of an incident, and we were 5th, and just had a good strategy and just played it out really.
Yeah, and look, honestly, we've been surprised, and we've said it a couple of times tonight, but so surprised that it took so long to get a safety car tonight here at St Petersburg, for it to not be until effectively the dying stages of the second race was not at all what we thought we were going to get here tonight. From your perspective, how did the racing feel out there? It looked to be pretty clean and pretty hard fought all the same.
Yeah, it was good racing. Like, genuinely, it was. These guys are always good to race with. Like up the front. Everyone gives room. Everyone has respect. Brian Ball came and congratulated me on the wins. So the guys are really good to race with, and the respect's there. So if you give respect, it's pretty easy. The racing was good. No complaints at all.
Well, mate, it certainly has played out pretty nicely for you in terms of your points here tonight, and hopefully keeps you on a nice little path to the championship after a few rounds. Still plenty of racing left to go, though. That's 100%. One street circuit down and a bit more yet to come. Mate, look, not much more to say about tonight's race. Just a hard-fought one, but very well deserved. And thanks so much for dropping in. As always, though, anyone that you do want to say hello to or give any of your sponsors a shout-out, now is the time.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Brad Ratu and Dan Yeoman. It's been a long time since I've raced with Brad. Done a lot of co-driving with Brad, but I've known him since 2024. One of my best mates, is my best mate. It's good to finally get back in the supercar and be with him. He gave me a lot of help just the night before, just to kind of give me some tips, and it was really good. Dan couldn't be here this week just because of work commitments, which he got shafted on work commitments. He had to work all night tonight, so we'll see Dan next week. But just like to thank those two, and for major sponsors, Logitech G, iLiveries, Revolution Race Gear, our other supporters and little sponsors, and Cozy, Sandblock Media, Hybrid Racing Simulations, and Fight SRC, which is quite a big thing. Mum's going through cancer at the moment, so yeah, it's definitely a big thing, and shout out to Mum. Hard times, so yeah, it's been on my mind. So yeah, it's a bit corny, but it's one of those things where fight for cancer, pretty big thing on the car now for me. So never thought it would be, but here we are. So
Mate, never a corner thing, and it's a bloody tough thing. It's something that impacts so many people. So best of luck to your mum, and we'll keep our fingers crossed on this end. I'm sure it won't be the last time we chat to you, of course, mate. But well deserved tonight, and we'll let you get back out of the car and stretch the legs a bit, hey?
Yeah, my butt's actually really sore. I need to get a new seat, little seat cushion, because my butt's killing me. So that'll be a bit of water, because did jiu-jitsu and gym in one night last night. So pretty sore in the whole body. So even now I'm dying. So shout out to you boys as well. Love the broadcast. Like I sent you a message last week. Really appreciate the broadcast. Really good. So thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Connor Nixon there takes the win in race number 2, and geez, what a night of racing at St Petersburg. I think it's given me not quite what I expected tonight, Isaac, but certainly what I'd hoped for. Some really exciting racing, some close battles, and look, a track blockage. Honestly, I could tick that off the bingo card now.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we can say we've done. And look, I think there's a couple of things there's a lot of learnings to take away from tonight, isn't there? And things that will be revised moving forward. I think the racing around here was really positive. There's a lot of great battles, a lot of good moments, but a lot of things to take away from this to change moving forward for everyone, just to make the racing a little bit safer. But nevertheless, it always provides a street circuit with supercars. Cannot go wrong, and should be good for the rest of the year. And look, next week, Virginia, we move to a dedicated racing circuit. And that'll be exciting in these cars, that's for sure.
Absolutely will. So make sure you do tune back in for that next week. We'll be back again with more V8 Supercar action. As always, a massive thank you to Gard, Thankabain as the major sponsors for this season again. Great to have them on board, as well as all your usual suspects. Chubby Buns Burgers, still hanging out to get one of those. I'll have to get down south and grab one at some point soon. As well as Nicol Photography, AA West Automotive, Quantum Tint Solutions, and of course 24/7 Sim Services, providing race control this evening. Great to be back in the booth with you once again this week, Isaac. Thanks so much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and looking forward to jumping back in the booth the next week and doing it all again.
And to everyone watching along at home, thank you so much. You having your say in the chat always makes life interesting for us and keeps us engaged with what's going on out there. So great to have you along, and keep us on our toes, please. It's always good fun. We're looking forward to hosting you again right here on Simple Racing Broadcast next week. Until then, though, it's goodbye for now.